Has your health been covered up? Today, it's Revealing Wholeness with Dr. Troy Munson, presented to you by Infinity Whole Health.
Hello and welcome. This is Dr. Troy Munson on Revealing Wholeness. Today, we're going to continue on with the mental side of healing, and this is getting back to our power. So we have this wonderful gift of energy and power inside our body and the ability and creativity to do whatever we want in our life. And yet it seems that eventually our life does not go the way that we want it to go. And those dreams and those goals begin to be crushed. And even our health takes a demise because of these thoughts that run through our head. And so I want to talk about first, how does our brain start to actually work against us? And how does it work against the body? When we were born, and even likely before we were born in our mother's womb, we are categorizing and labeling everything that happens in our lives. And as we grow up, we're getting these labels that are pushed upon us that we begin to believe, whether it's I'm good, or I'm bad, or I'm cute, or I'm ugly, or I'm smart, or I'm dumb. All these labels, they're put there often by us. And in times when the more emotionally charged it is, the more entrenched that thought can be. And we tend to weaken ourselves by believing in things that we have put there or that other people have judged us by. And now we're in a tough position. And so I want to go through a couple of examples. So I remember when I was 6 years old that I was on a swim team. We grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and we would train or have the first part of our training would just be swimming laps. And for 15, 20 minutes, you'd be swimming laps. And the bigger kids, probably 14, 15 years of age, they would swim right over the top of the little kids. And I remember one time I felt like I was drowning. I was just spinning in the water and they just kept swimming over the top of me and I couldn't get to the surface. And I remember being incredibly afraid, but at that moment, I jumped out of the pool and I began to hide. I didn't want to go to practice anymore because I just told myself I was afraid. But when I went back in there years later and looked back at that scenario, I asked myself a very important question. And so today, that this first nugget is asking yourself these questions about emotionally charged events. So any of you sitting out there, think back about some of your early childhood memories, and you'll probably think of some pretty amazing events in your life that you're like, wow, I can't believe I still think about that. But those become very important because just like that swim team episode, when I went back in, I discovered that I had decided about myself that I was insignificant. Now, imagine if we walk around the rest of our life with that thought of insignificance floating around in there, and that's one of your cherished beliefs. Is that going to be good for you? Well, of course not. We know it's not going to be good for you. And so there are beliefs just like this in your head, in my head. I've done a lot of digging into my own skull, and I encourage you to do it as well. And it's easy to start on some of these emotionally charged events because they're just great fodder for figuring out what's going on. Now, the hard work is figuring out exactly what you decided. And I've worked with clients that I've asked them this question, and they'll tell me things, well, I decided not to do that anymore. I said, but that's not what you decided about you. What did you decide about you? Well, I decided that I wasn't going to do that anymore. And I said, you know what? You've already said that. That isn't about you. That's about the situation. And so it's really difficult because the brain will hide these thoughts because it really doesn't want you to see them. It doesn't want you to know what it actually thought. It's almost embarrassed by them. And you need to find them because ultimately your great life depends upon it, if you will. Because all these negative beliefs that we hold upon ourselves now keep us down. They self-sabotage, they damage our body itself. And we're going to talk about next time a little bit more on how energy gets stuck in our cells and in our body and how do we release that energy and what does it feel like. I'm going to have you kind of go through some exercises and sit there and feel where that energy is in your body. It's really amazing that you can actually feel it. So the first thing we need to do is to go in and ask ourselves, what did I decide about myself? And once you figure out what that is, if you're young enough, you won't even have a word for it oftentimes. You just have to throw words at it until you find a word that kind of means what it is that you believed about yourself, but it'll resonate very clearly. You'll be like, you know what, that's exactly what I thought about myself. Now, here's the great part. You get to now rewire and tell yourself, what are you really like? Who are you really? So if I thought I was insignificant, now I got to rewire my head and say, okay, that belief no longer fits me. What is my new belief about myself? Well, I believe that I am incredibly valuable, that I am infinite, that I am a gift to mankind. Those are the things you get to start putting in your head. Now, it doesn't happen the first time. You're going to go back in and think of that charged event in your life, and that old feeling and that old belief is going to come right back up. But each time, you know it's there now, and you can rewire it. And as you do that over and over and over, it eventually takes on the new belief. And so it helps to have eyes closed. It helps to be in a quiet room where you're undisturbed. And it helps to just get the work done at that time. So, what did I believe about myself? What did I decide about myself? And now, what will I decide differently about myself? So that's the first thing. So the next thing is to help undo a lot of our thinking as, let's say you're driving in your car right now and you're looking around at vehicles, or you're sitting at your desk and you're looking at your computer or your phone or whatever it is you're doing. As you look around driving or at your desk or in your office, you're going to look around, you're going to see all kinds of things, whether it's another car, a tree, your desk, a coffee cup. All those things you have given all the meaning they have for you. I want to say that again. Everything you look at, you give it all the meaning it has for you. It doesn't have meaning for anybody else. It just has meaning for you. And every time you labeled something when you were little, you gave it meaning. You gave it personality. You gave it energy. And as you withdraw those meanings and allow things to be just as they are rather than labeling everything, you actually take a lot of pressure off of your brain to now begin to realize I can just go through life and allow things to be and events to be without judging them, good or bad. That takes a lot of energy away from us. The more energy that we can conserve in your body, especially those fighting some type of sickness or illness, the more energy we can drive back into the system, into your body, and begin to heal faster and faster. And so we continually take away our own energy by cherishing these wrongful beliefs. And so this was a mind stretch today. But as you go around, you judge a coffee cup as a coffee cup, but maybe I judge it as a paperweight. Maybe somebody else judges it as a piece of ceramic. Are the judgments wrong? Well, no, they're just incomplete. Well, what if we just wipe that away and we let our brain be clear? As we begin to allow the mind to be more and more clear, it's like the thought of becoming like a small child. We're told you can't enter the kingdom of heaven unless you become like a small child. Well, a small child doesn't judge. They're a wide open slate, and they're just experiencing the world as it is and letting it be, but the brain starts coming in and labeling everything. So until we get to that idea of I've got to stop labeling and judging everything, we really need to move beyond that. And so this is part of it. So we gave you a couple nuggets today. Replay it if you need to. We definitely recommend that. For those of you that want the tool of the 9 steps of going through that how you decided about yourself and how to change it, absolutely email us and we will get you that tool out to you, and you'll have the step-by-step process. And next time, I can't wait to talk about energy and how it works on the system, and I look forward to our next visit. And I am Dr. Troy Munson on Revealing Wholeness.